Good afternoon. My name is Michael Yazigi. I'm a professor of strategy and organizations here at IMD. It's my great pleasure today to have a short interview with Guy Laliberté, who has a number of accomplishments to his name. Guy, you are a world-class poker player. You are a traveler into space. You have created the One Drop Foundation around water access. But you're probably best known, obviously, for being the founder and the CEO, even today, of Cirque du Soleil. It's a $1 billion per year business, and you've entertained tens of millions of people across the world. So it's a great pleasure to have you with us.
Likewise, thank you.
So I know that you started essentially as a street busker, breathing fire and doing other ridiculous actions, right? Somehow you ended up where you are today. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, my journey is quite interesting, but I would say where I am today is because I had followed my original dream. And my dream was not to be a business person or a circus director. Actually, it was to travel and discover the world. All that came from a moment in my young age. I got in touch during, I got in contact with the World Expo 67 in Montreal, which then I discovered there was people other than the people that I was living in my community, meaning there was people that had different color skin, was dressing differently, had geographical environment different than mine. So I would just attract, and I want to discover the world. So the fastest way that I found to discover and go see those people was to pick up the accordion of my father, learn a couple of tunes, hit the road being a busker, and then I discover the pleasure of entertaining people. And this is where I start to say to myself, maybe I could combine the two, the traveling aspect and entertaining people. And this is where I start to get involved in entertainment, organizing theater troupe, festival, and then in 1984 founded Cirque du Soleil.
So it was a little bit of an accident, if you will. You weren't
an organized accident.
An organized accident. You weren't setting out to create a multinational business.
Absolutely not.
You're pursuing your passion, your dream.
Correct. But I definitely was somebody that could seize opportunities, recognize the opportunities that I had, that life was presented to me, and I was certainly a good dealer. You know, I could make deal. I had also great pleasure of doing or playing being a businessman.
I see. It is interesting because there are lots and lots of street performers, but there aren't a lot of founders of Cirque du Soleil.
Not at all.
So you had some special ingredients in there that distinguish you from the others.
But I think I always had that, because even when I was at school at a very young age, I was always wheeling, dealing, you know, selling and trading cards, baseball cards, having my little lemonade counter in the summer at the corner of the street of my parents' house. But also I always had fantasized creative project. I always liked to organize things at school, all cultural activities, the café étudiant, all that type of thing. I was always involved. So really, I think I was born with those two brains. One was the entrepreneur, and the other one was the creative people, the creative side of the brain. And actually, the entire history of Cirque du Soleil is about that balance between art, creativity, and business sense. So,
and do you find that it's a trade-off or a balance or a tension between the two, or do you actually find that your business sense informs your artistry, or your artistry informs your business sense in some way?
I think the balance notion of it is very, very important. And this is one thing I said right at the beginning of Cirque. I said to my people, we'll achieve success if we're capable of living our creativity and our business entrepreneurship and having it in the right, perfect balance. And I think this is right also for other type of business, is that capacity of recognizing that in order to be successful, you need to allow creativity to take place. On the other side, business guidance is very important, because those are two very extreme poles, normal or naturally opposed to each other, but it's when you're capable of joining them in a common force and with common goal that you could achieve what I believe is great success.
One of the things that stands out that I see in your history is your sense of values and prioritization. So you're just speaking about a balance between these things, but it's quite clear that you could have done an IPO and had plenty of money. You could have probably leveraged the Cirque brand more and doubled your revenues, doubled your profits potentially.
You're right about that.
But you've prioritized some things over that.
Yeah, well, which is a pleasure of what I do and what I did at Cirque. You're right. We could have multiplied our show, doubled them, but always had said, no, I want each of our show to be one of a kind. We decided to work at an artist level. Yes, we could have IPO the company. I could have been retired by now. But I think the pleasure of what we did and being involved in such an enterprise, which basically, we're a great happiness merchant. And at the end, the passion that I had doing what I did prevailed over any financial things. That being said, it's by sticking on that values and that principle that I probably became richer than if I had give up back then or compromise on certain aspect. So many times I've been approached by companies who want to buy me, and I said no. I didn't say no because of the money. The money was very tempting, but it's always when it came down to creative control that I said, wait a minute, I'm not selling my soul. I still have things to create, and I always had believed that if I was selling the company or letting a certain decision making out of my hand, then I will have no more fun and passion of doing what I did. So I didn't want to compromise on that part.
I came into this interview thinking that I would ask you about what's key to successful entrepreneurship. But based on the conversation, one of the things that comes out is you probably wouldn't be, the interesting question for you isn't how to be a good engineer, or entrepreneur, but how to live a flourishing life. It's almost that the entrepreneurship is a facet of that rather than the defining characteristic of you as a person.
Exactly. Well, I always had said, at the end, the big question, where are we being brought on this planet for? Is it to live our life as individual, or fitting in a social organization and having a responsibility to make the system work? And I said at the end, yes, we have to live, we have to survive, we have to bring food on our plate, but at the end, we're human. We have emotion, we have a life to live. And for me, I decided to please myself first, instead of fitting in a system. Obviously, I'm part of the system today. I have to recognize that, but I came to this position in my society in which I live by achieving first my passion and what I believe was pleasing me. So I may be privileged because I don't think many people have that opportunity to that privilege. I still believe I'm living a great privilege in life, but on the other side, I had worked for it and I had defended it and I had believed in it.
So it's a dream with a lot of commitment behind it.
It's an amazing journey, and there's not a morning that I don't wake up and say thank you.
So, and today now, after or alongside Cirque du Soleil, you've also added One Drop Foundation, an organization, a not-for-profit dedicated to water access around the world. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, One Drop came after also other social commitment, because right at the beginning of Cirque, we got involved. I've always been a believer that if life gives you, you have to give back to life. This is something I learned from my mother. At the very young age, she kind of remind me all the time that I was privileged of having my water every day and my 3 meals a day. So she always taught me, said, having that privilege, you have to share your privilege. And I think it's important in every entrepreneur or every company to be put in place, the integration right at the beginning of social commitment. Humanitarian commitment is fundamental. If we are here as individual, we are also here as people being part of a global community. and unfortunately it's not well balanced on this planet. So I think the importance of integrating right away in your life, in your entrepreneurship life, in your business plan, in your budget, the notion of having a place to share is fundamental for a better life, a better world, actually.
It's interesting. You strike me as a very holistic person, and your activities somehow reflect that. So it's not as if you separate out, well, in my last 20 years of life, I'll be a philanthropist, and these 20 years. No, everything is integrated. And I noticed that, for example, you set up poker games. You enjoy poker, but you build in a social benefit component.
Correct.
You went to space for fun. You loved it, but you built in social. And you did the same thing with Cirque. Everything seems to be well integrated. You look for a full expression of yourself through your activities.
Correct. And I think it's important. And plus it became very interesting because I like to think that every time I do something, it's kind of like I take a stone and I try to hit 3 birds at the same time, and it could work. Mm-hmm. So you could also do business and achieve great business success, but also being able to share your wealth and helping people, or share or bring pleasure to people. And you know, when you're capable of thinking in such a large way, it does work. And you know, it's so rewarding at the end. Because what is the goal of doing what we do? Of course, we want to be successful, but what about being able to please and help people at the same time? What about being happy yourself? Because I think the individual happiness of every individual getting in a project is also important. Because how could you have a happy world if you don't have a happy individual? Mm-hmm. So this is something I've been believing it, and it worked. After 52 years, I could tell people, if you try and you make it happen and you really desire that, it could work.
So what gets in the way then? Right? Because we don't have 1,000 Guy Laliberté around the world, right? You're in the top 100 list of most influential people. You're on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood, right? You're an exceptional person, and a lot of it seems to be driven from this perspective that you have. What gets in the way of other people adopting that perspective, you think?
Unfortunately, and you know, and this is where sometimes I'm a little tough on, I think greed is something that killed that type of philosophy. You know, selfishness. Those are things.
But it's a narrow selfishness, right? Because if I were to describe you, I'd say you're a very selfish person.
I am.
But you understand your
environment,
values,
exactly,
exactly,
and that's what I'm saying. I think if people nurture value, if people nurture recognition of the privilege in which they are born, it's fundamental to be able to achieve such. You know, to integrate those type of things in their daily life. And unfortunately, and it's sad to say, but you meet people that, like I said, have the privilege of their 3 meals a day that complain about little thing. I just don't understand. When there's billions of people out there that their primary concern every morning when they wake up is to be able to have access to a clean water, a glass of clean water. It amazes me how sometimes people think and build up misery when there's none. And I think this is the fundamental, is let's recognize at least when
what we have,
what we have, and then build collectively things that we could make us happier collectively. You know, I'm an happy person, but I'm not. I'm very conscious also of what is the challenge of the society in which we live. We're living in a very problematic moment. There's 7 billion people out there. How could we live all together? This is a big challenge of the world that we're living in, and it doesn't look good. On the other side, I don't want to give up. I'm a believer that we could, as a society, organize a better world together, but we need to understand that we have to work together.
Tell me, along those lines, tell me more about the One Drop Foundation.
Well, the One Drop Foundation has been put in place in 2007. For me, it was another thing I wanted to do, you know, celebrating the 25th anniversary of Cirque du Soleil. I had the choice of making a feast or an engagement, and I decided to put in place One Drop. One Drop is has a primary mission to bring water in place in countries and geographical region where they don't have access to water through field project. We're also very active in northern developed country with sensibilization information about the fact that water is not a resource that is infinite. And I decide to go in water inspired by the fact that water is a source of life, but also touched by the fact that one person every 20 seconds is dying of not having access to clean water. So that touched me. Since then, I realized that water is at the center of every big challenge this planet has to face. You take biodiversity, pollution, global warming, situation of women in the world, children education, health, it's all there. And at the center of it is water. So I truly believe if we address water and solve the problematic of water in the world, we could give ourselves a chance of solving many other problems.
And then what kind of activities does the foundation
Well,
engage
we
in?
do field project, like I said. We bring obviously technical organization. We help certain region to organize themselves on a technical base, but also we bring microcredit, and also we take time to integrate and understand the specific culture of each place that we work on. We call that, this is our tripod approach. Then in northern developed country, we through arts, we're trying to sensibilize people, because at the end I think the solution is in the concern and the implication of every individual. Our approach is through art or language is primary art, but also we try to believe that we work like more soft medicine people. We're not activists. We don't take camera and hit on the head of people. We try to touch people through our project with and plant the seeds in their heart. And we believe by that we'll be able to create a ripple effect, sensibilizing people and make them understand that we have a big challenge in the next 25 years, which is addressing the situation of water. There's big crisis coming in that we'll be facing if we don't take action right now. In regard to water.
Again, I see the holism. I know that you pay a good deal of attention to where the money goes in the foundation.
Totally. This is what we do at One Drop. We follow. Well, first, I put my own money in it, and I want to see it from top to down and as most efficient as possible.
And again, one of the things that strikes me is this holism, right? So there's a very ends-oriented perspective. Are we getting a good bang for the buck here? But you pay attention to the softer things that are going to actually have an impact on people, touching people's hearts, sensibilizing.
Well, I think we're human people. Yeah. We're not machine. We're not. I don't think we're being put on this planet for the purpose of being fitting one little function. We have emotion, and this is what I believe we are as humans. So. For me, the notion of emotion, heart, all those things are very valuable. I don't know, this is what I believe in. I don't believe we've been put here to assume a specific one function to make a big society work. We're here also to live our life as individual.
That's a beautiful way of saying things. Thank you very much for
pleasure.
taking the time for this interview.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.